Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and this is the Game Day Hour for the last episode of Season 3 of this channel's podcast, or whatever you want to call it, all the episodes. This is episode 38, and in today's episode, we are going to be covering Super Bowl 60 in its entirety. I want to thank you guys so much for all the support throughout this year. I just recently passed over 200 subscribers, so thank you guys so much for all the support. And we're going to continue to get better and better, and looking into next year, things are going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys are ready for it. Let's do this. It's Super Bowl 60 season finale. This has been a very interesting year. There's a lot of things that I did not expect. This was definitely nowhere near my Super Bowl matchup. I had both these teams missing the playoffs at the beginning of the year, and yet they were able to come back and be something special. So I'm very happy for them. I'm very happy that we have something new. It's not Patrick Mahomes again or Jalen Hurts again. Well, I guess it's not really new if you think long and hard about it. We've seen this matchup before in the past. Just to see the circumstances be completely new. Two head coaches who have never been in the Super Bowl as head coaches. You also have two quarterbacks who have never seen the Super Bowl either, and this is going to be extremely fun. So we're going to cover both teams, then we're going to look at the matchup and crown a winner. Starting with the Seattle Seahawks, I actually had them going 7-10 to start the year off. It was kind of a interesting situation because I thought that Sam Darnold was going to take a step down because I didn't think Seattle was better than Minnesota roster-wise. I wasn't familiar with Jackson Smith-Jigba and how good he was going to be. The running game I thought was nice on paper, but didn't always pan out the way that it should be throughout the year. This was a much better year for rushing for both Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, so I have to give them a lot of credit there. I did not see the defense being as powerful as they were. That's really the driving force of this team. And if you think about Seattle's team this year and just the competition, they were in the toughest division. San Francisco and LA were both great opponents who they had to beat in order to get to the Super Bowl. So you got to give them a lot of credit there. I mean, they had to play a lot of tough competition throughout the year. Ultimately, they dominated in most of the games that they played. They had a few games that they were off on. The only three losses they had throughout the year was San Francisco on opening week, Tampa Bay, and LA at SoFi Stadium. That's all that they had in losses. They have played almost pitch perfect, playing in the game of the year against the Rams the second go around in Seattle. I was very happy with that performance the Thursday night. I love the jerseys and the uniforms. I love the comeback. I loved overtime. It was such a spectacular game, and you have to tip your cap to them. And then throughout the playoffs for Seattle, they opened it off with a bang. Rashid Shaheed taking it to the house, dominating San Francisco, controlling pace against LA, and now they're in the Super Bowl for the first time in the last 11 years. And the last time they were in the Super Bowl was against New England Patriots, and everybody know how that went. Seattle had the ball at the 1-yard line. Marshawn Lynch in the backfield decided to pass it, gets picked off with less than 30 seconds to go. And New England ended up winning and starting their second dynasty. And that's the tough part, because Seattle had a chance to create a dynasty with that victory. You know, they would have had their second Super Bowl in a row. They would have had all the momentum going into next year. Maybe they would have played a lot different against Cam Newton and the Panthers in that first playoff game in the divisional round, but who knows? I think that the call to pass it at the 1-yard line destroyed Seattle's team right then and there. And they couldn't recover until they got a new head coach. Sam Darnold came to town, and they were able to put it together for something extremely spectacular. But if you look at Seattle's season, last year they went 10-7, and they went 14-3 this year, so it was a 4-game plus. In the Football Power Index, which is basically like the biggest metric to measure how great a team is, they were first place. So yeah, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Strength of schedule, they had the 14th best. I mean, part of the reason why it was so high was because of their division, the NFC West. They also played some really tough competition. They played 8 teams that ended up making it to the playoffs throughout the regular season, went 6-2, so they did really well there. Their overall efficiency is first, with their offensive efficiency being 13th, and both defensive and special team efficiency being first. They had a very strong team. And you just don't look at all the names and you're like, man, this team shouldn't be as stacked and loaded. There's not a lot of well-established names that are very high up there. They had to create and establish it for themselves. So they really carved their path to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl. Congratulations to Seattle. That is the NFC champions. Now switching over to the AFC, we have the New England Patriots. Going into this season, I had New England going 9-8. I didn't think they had the strongest roster in the world, but getting Mike Vrabel, I thought was a big deal. I always talk about how much I like Mike Vrabel. He really took a Tennessee Titans team, which had to heavily lean on A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. Didn't have the greatest quarterback in the world in Ryan Tannehill, and they made it to the AFC Championship game against Kansas City in a year they shouldn't have done it. They had to beat Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson to get there, and that was extremely weird. The last Tom Brady playoff game was against Tennessee against Mike Vrabel, so it is a full circle moment to have him come back to New England. And then Tennessee had games where they won their division, were fourth, lost to Baltimore, and then one year they were first, lost to Cincinnati in the divisional round. And we're all like, well, Mike Vrabel is a good coach. Is he a great coach? I didn't think he had the best assets with him. And then the Titans front office got rid of him after a bad season. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't believe it was Mike Vrabel's fault. I thought he coached very well. He didn't have a lot to work with. He had Henry and he had A.J. Brown. They traded A.J. Brown and got a receiver who has still not come up to be the #1 receiver on the team. So it was a bad trade and gave Philadelphia basically their Super Bowl title. So I don't know what the Titans were thinking. They had it. They had an opportunity and they threw it away. It just makes no sense. So yeah, the Titans, they blew up on Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel gets fired, and then a couple years later, he becomes the New England Patriots head coach. And New England last season was one of the worst teams in the NFL, 4-13. Drake Maye, he had promise, but he wasn't developing very well. The team was not meshing. And then Mike Vrabel comes in, and let me tell you what has changed. Last year, they went 4-13. This year, 14-3. That's a 10-game plus. Football Power Index, they're top 10. They're 10th in the NFL, which isn't good for a Super Bowl team, I guess. But they also had, I thought, a fairly easy route to the playoffs, but we'll get to that in a second. Strength of schedule, though, is where the question marks come in. They were last this season in strength of schedule. Overall efficiency, they were second. Offensive efficiency, they were second. Defensive, 10th, which is still very, very good. And special teams efficiency, they were 7th. And really, this team is a nice build-around playoff team, but when I look at all these statistics, I'm not thinking of this team as a Super Bowl contender. But then you look at throughout the year, they were 2-2 against playoff teams. They had to play Buffalo twice, so that's where they got that 1-1 split. They beat Carolina, but they lost to Pittsburgh early on in the year. So they didn't have a lot of playoff teams. They really had a cakewalk schedule, which I'm not going to bash New England. You were last place in your division last year. Of course, you're going to have a theoretically easier schedule, but that also is going to raise a lot of questions when coming into this matchup. And then this playoff run, they were the 2nd seed. They beat the Chargers, who had no offensive line, and really there was a lot of exposure there, which I'm not saying that was a bad game. Drake Maye was able to command the offense very well, and the defense did its job. Then their next game was against Houston. Almost everybody was picking Houston, despite the spread being in favor for New England. And New England, man, after going down 10-7, they turned it on. The offense played great. That defense got 4 interceptions in that game, and I was like, man, this is great. And when I learned that Bo Nix went out against Denver, I almost had New England as a lock. And then that AFC matchup happened, and then that AFC Championship matchup happened, and I saw a team that was so underwhelming. New England didn't play super great. The defense did hold Denver to 7 points, but you're starting Jarrett Stidham in snow, so you ought to hold them to 7 points. I expected their offense to do a lot better against that Denver defense, even though the defense is still really good. I just thought there were going to be a lot more opportunities for New England to score, which there were. There were a lot of missed field goals, but I thought New England was very underwhelming in that game. But they made it to the Super Bowl, so it's good on them. Now they get to play in a more favorable environment in San Francisco against the Seattle team that has basically had a better schedule and a better competition throughout the schedule. So you gotta give New England a lot of credit there. Drake Maye's an MVP candidate. Stephon Diggs, he didn't play the most spectacular season, but he did what he had to. The run game with Trevion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson was very strong, with 4 players on that team getting over 100 yards rushing, including Drake Maye as one of them. And then that defense being 10th, really, I think they're a lot better than 10th. I loved what New England's defense was able to do this year. It's always been the backbone to New England's culture to have a great quarterback along with an incredible defense. That's basically Tom Brady's career, if you think about it, because if you look at the rest of the team, yeah, you got a young run game coming up. Ramondre Stevenson gives a lot of LeGarrette Blount vibes for me, for some reason. I don't know why. He just got, if you're kind of comparing and contrasting past New England teams to this one, that's kind of what it feels like if you had to compare players. And Stephon Diggs, nice. And the rest of the receiving core, I'm met on, even though they have a lot of great playmakers. Hunter Henry, to me, is their best playmaker, and he doesn't get talked about enough because tight ends don't really get that coverage unless you're Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Outside of that, I don't think you get enough coverage There's some other tight ends that do, but those are the two main ones that get a lot of coverage. So New England's team this year, easiest schedule possible, but they didn't flounder. And in the playoffs, they stepped up to the occasion when the occasion was needed. And now that leads to Super Bowl 60. Now, before I get into this matchup, I have predicted the Super Bowl twice on this channel. I'm 0-2. I picked San Francisco to beat Kansas City. Was wrong. I picked Kansas City to beat Philadelphia. I was wrong again. I'm hoping for a third time's the charm. That's really where I'm at right that. But now that all that's out of the way, it is time to make the prediction of Super Bowl 60 between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. These two teams met 11 years ago and played one of the greatest games of all time in Super Bowl history. Tom Brady had a 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter, capped off by the Malcolm Butler interception at the goal line, and New England would win their fourth Super Bowl and begin their second dynasty, while Seattle fell off into misery. And so now these two teams meet again under completely different circumstances. On one side of the ball in Seattle, you got a journeyman in Sam Darnold, who started his NFL career off seeing ghosts in New York, went to Carolina, became a backup in San Francisco, biggest thing to ever happen to him, played in Minnesota for a year, 14-3, lost the first round of the playoffs, they got rid of him, and then in his first year with the Seattle Seahawks, he took them to the Super Bowl, backed by an incredible defense and a great run game, and an incredibly amazing season by Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's Seattle's team, and Mike McDonald, I just find it very difficult to say McDonald smoothly. I gotta get used to that. So that is the Seattle Seahawks team right there. And then on the opposite end, you got the New England Patriots, who played a very easy schedule with a lesser group of players. But Drake Maye proved to be an MVP candidate. Stephon Diggs still got it. That defense is extremely turnover prone, and that's amazing for them. They were able to get through a playoff, not so big of a gauntlet, but took down the #1 defense in Houston, putting up 28 points on them. And now they find themselves in Super Bowl 60. The Patriots' drought is over. The last time they were in the Super Bowl was 7 years ago. We thought the drought was going to be longer. Apparently, bringing in Mike Vrabel was the biggest thing that could happen for New England. And now they have all the confidence in the world to potentially come back and be a formidable franchise for the, I don't know how many years, 5, 7, 10 maybe. They can be great for a very long time if they can keep this going. But then it leads me to this matchup. So every bit of index that I was talking about with all the statistics favored Seattle because they played a tougher schedule, played better in that tougher schedule, and are better in efficiency and the football power index. They were basically better in New England in almost everything but offensive efficiency. Almost everything wants me to say Seattle. Seattle's team this year on paper, they proved to be a very incredible force. Sam Darnold is not elite, but he was teetering on it. And I have to give him a lot of credit. He was one of my MVP candidates. And on the opposite end, like, part of me wants to say New England because I feel like that's the storybook for this Super Bowl. But I'm going to hold off on that because I believe that New England has not proven to me that they can be the Super Bowl champions. And I'm going to take Seattle to win 27-23. It will be a close game, don't get me wrong. But I believe that the Seattle Seahawks, up and down, are just a better team. Now, New England is now going to have to be up there when you look at future seasons, along with a Kansas City, a Baltimore, a Cincinnati, a Buffalo, a Houston, and all of these powerful teams. Denver, if you want to go and put them there, Jacksonville. You have to continuously keep putting them in the mix because they've shown that they can get it done and get it done very well. But this is going to be the toughest team they play all year, and it's going to be one I don't think they're going to overcome. So with that, Seattle would win their second Super Bowl in NFL history, with their only other one being Super Bowl 48 against Denver and Peyton Manning. And so the Seattle Seahawks, I believe, will win the Super Bowl. It's just a trend. I choose the away team in the Super Bowl. I did it with San Francisco, Kansas City. I lost both times. Let's hope I'm good for a third time. And that'll do it for today's finale episode. Thank you guys so much for season 3 of this channel. I was able to stay as persistent and consistent as I could be. And hopefully I'm going to do better next year. I'm going to take these next 3 weeks off because I'm going to be going to Utah for vacation. And then I'm going to be coming back and trying to set everything up for the next season. And then when season 4 begins, I got a lot of nice episodes that will be coming up that I'm very excited to do. And the structure, I'll talk about it in the next episode. You see the first one of that next season, so stay tuned for that. I want to thank you guys so much for this year. I reached 200 subscribers on Monday. It's Wednesday when I'm recording this, so thank you guys so much for all of the support. I'm very grateful for what has happened. And I'll tell you, there's a few things I'm looking forward to next year. I'm looking to play some video games on streams, maybe make some content with that. But I'm still going to be centered around sports and podcasting, and still trying to get these episodes out, and, you know, being able to be interactive with a lot of people. I see that there's a lot of comments that I've had throughout the years, and shorts really blew up. It was a very big deal for me to see shorts do as well as they did. A lot of the comments are great, some not so much, but it doesn't matter. I love the interactions, and I hope that you guys continue to do that. Want to continue doing these shorts and get better at doing that, getting better at doing the episodes. But yeah, expect a lot to happen in season 4. But yeah, there's going to be a couple weeks before that happens, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, that will do it for season 3. If you haven't already, go follow me on all my social medias. They're in the description below. And if you also notice, I switched up the entire setup. I'm now sitting down instead of standing up, because I realized that standing up isn't the best way to do these recordings. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. So I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next season. Peace out.